There we go. All right. Welcome everybody to another episode of What I Crush Today. I have two of my very favorite people on the line with us. We have Mary Cheatham King of Mary Cheatham King Real Estate and her cohort, Meg, or as we like to call her, Meg Gravley.
So honored.
So Mary Cheatham, take a minute to introduce yourself and then Meg will come to you.
Oh gosh. Well, Meg and I are coming to you guys from Morehead City, which is a very small town on the coast of North Carolina. We have a lot of clients who are second home owners. And then of course we also are serving the full-time community as well, but kind of an interesting, we have a great client base that we love to serve because it's a lot of fun stuff. Second homes are always fun to sell. So just love it. And we have been working, Jordan, what is it, 5 years?
2016. Yep. It was the year Zoe was born. So that's how I always remember.
How about that?
What a special year.
Yep. So we've been working with Jordan for 5 years. So are just so amazingly grateful for his influence and guidance. So anyway, we're thrilled to be here. Thank y'all for having us.
And Meg?
Hello. I've been with Mary Cheatham for almost 3 years now. And I started in the marketing department, and then we've kind of grown it from there. It's really cool to work with Mary Cheatham, who's our rainmaker, but also is one of the most creative marketing minds that I've ever met. So my job essentially is to take her ideas and put them down on paper. So I have a really fun job and love what I do because of the 19 women we have on our team. Crazy.
Love it. Yep. So that's the thing.
Except for Jordan, sorry.
I'm the only dude on the team and they
There
keep me half a continent away. That's the way it rolls, right? So, all right, guys. So the topic of today is master your message, win your market. And so what I'm curious about, and I want you to think about this through the lens of whether you have a team or you're an individual agent, but how do I find my message? How do I do that?
Yeah. So, we talked about this earlier, kind of brainstorming on it. And I think that the way that you find your message is first and foremost that you don't force it. So I think you think about what is authentically you, right? What is it that you really love about your job? What do you love about being a part of your community? What do you love about real estate? So we were laughing, we were saying, there are people who are like masters at the numbers and the stats and kind of explaining to you, here's what's happening in the market and just cutting through the BS and making it like really like clear and plain. That is not me. So, so for me to try and be that person would come across as really inauthentic. So what I get fired up about are kind of things that are happening in our community and new small businesses and restaurants and cocktails, yay, and all those different types of things, nonprofits and things people are doing that are helping others in our community. Those are things that really get me excited. So those are the things that I like to focus on. So I would say to you, it's not one size fits all. I would think about what is it that comes easily to you, because if it doesn't come easily to you, then your message is going to be inconsistent. It's not something you're going to want to put out there. It's going to feel stilted. And I think that's not what you want.
Got it. So authentic is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Meg, how would you piggyback on that?
So I think in details, and I know that Mary Cheatham thinks very visually as well. So a way to kind of take what she just said about finding what comes easily to you is to brain dump it and write it down on a piece of paper. Maybe it's all the things that you love to do professionally within your business. You do a brain dump, you write it all down, and then you go back, maybe take a break, go walk your dog, do whatever, and then come back and pick maybe 3 to 5 of your top favorite things. And those become your content buckets. This is something we did a couple years ago, and it's completely changed the way that we approach our marketing in every single facet. So be it print, social media, emails, events, everything includes we have 5 buckets personally. So that's something that's tangible. They're essentially categories that you pull content from no matter what you're creating.
Okay. So let's stick with the 5 buckets, and then I want to circle back around to the first question for something that Mary Cheatham said. So Meg, what are the 5 buckets and how did you develop them? Give us the backstory on the buckets.
Sure. So actually, we did this as a team and well, as a little marketing team. So Mary Cheatham was involved and we had a couple other ladies involved as well. And we sat down and essentially said, what's most important to us and what do we do well? And we wrote down a bunch of things on the marketing front. And then we chose from there. We have listings. That's one of our buckets. We have team. We're a team of 19 women. So there's got to be one interesting thing a week that we're doing, be it personal, as a team, anything like that. We have community. So anything happening in the community, any community spotlight, any nonprofit ways folks can get involved. We have, we consider this a bucket, but we just make sure we include it in everything, but a testimonial. We always include a testimonial when we can. And then what's the fifth one? MC, what am I forgetting?
Well, I thought that there was community and then the giving back part. I thought those were two
Oh,
separate.
yeah. You're right. Those are separate. Yeah. So community, you're so right. The community is like restaurants and shops and stuff like that and guides. And then we have a giving back aspect of it. We do have a arm of our business called MC Carey Gives. And we like to include that whenever we can. Good call. Thanks.
So Meg, can you kind of show us how an idea comes to conception through the buckets? Like, can you kind of walk us, like, I totally understand the buckets. But how do I use that as an agent or a director of marketing like you are?
Sure. So if we're thinking about this in the context of maybe an email that you're sending out, if you have a weekly email that goes out to your database or a monthly email or whatever is on your docket, I take these buckets and I look at it as a menu and I write in each like little pieces of content under each of those categories. And I don't put the emails together myself. We have Andy who does a fantastic job on those. But what she does, and we do it as a team together, we pull from those buckets after we write in kind of what's going on under each of those in our community.
Got it. So that's literally the framework that you follow when you're looking, because like, and we'll link one of the emails that I get, the weekly emails that you guys send out. So we'll link one of those in the recap notes that you all get so that you can see what she's talking about. But that's literally the format you use when you're putting those emails together. And same thing with like the magazine. Is that how you guys are doing that?
Yep. We literally, every piece of marketing that we put out includes our 5 buckets. Social media is a little bit different. We separate it out because they're shorter and punchier, but anything large, like an email that goes out, a magazine, a postcard, includes our 5 buckets.
And I think that what I would say to you guys is, let's say that you're listening to this and you're like, well, okay, but those buckets don't speak to me, right? That message doesn't speak to me. I mean, I think what you might say is like, are you awesome with first-time home buyers and you want to always include some sort of a first-time home buyer tip? Or do you work with a lot of investors and you want to give people, kind of take that investment angle where you're always, the economist of choice is I know something that Gary talks about and something that kind of permeates into, the services that we should provide. And so, do you present yourself that way? We don't necessarily take that angle, as I said earlier, although we do try and provide market of the moment updates. But I think it could be anything like that are things that you, maybe you're super into sports and you live in a big city and you've got all different types of sports things going on. So you provide schedules and updates on what's happening there. I mean, it could be anything, but something that feels like you, and you incorporate that into kind of the buckets that you consider when you're creating your messaging.
Yeah, I love that. And, if we circle back though, Mary Cheatham, one of the things that when we were talking earlier about finding your message, what I heard you say is, what gets you excited, right? What comes easily to you? But it sounds like what you're really saying is, what are you passionate about and what adds value? Is that kind of in line with what you mean when we're talking about finding our message?
Yeah, I think that when you think about finding your message, I think it can feel overwhelming. But I think that if you back up and think about it, that's a great point, Jordan, starting with, how do you add value to other people? Because the way you add value isn't by just posting all your new listings, right? That gets kind of old. So, how do you add value? And I think that the best way to add value, it's hard to add it if you don't know anything about the topic on which you're speaking. So it's much better, if you can add value in something that really resonates with you. So I think that's exactly, so I think it starts with the intent, which is to add value, right? And then you think, well, how do I add value? Well, you add value based on what is it that makes you uniquely you? And what is it that you're excited to talk about and to share, because that's something you're going to share about consistently.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. And, to one point that I just want to make on that specifically, because as a coach, when I point to the marketing that you all do, specifically, a lot of people talk to me about the magazine. And today, we're not here to talk about necessarily how to build the magazine. We've done that before, and we will link the latest magazine with y'all's permission in the next email. But the thing that I want you that are in the crowd to hear, if you're looking for a director of marketing like Meg, I think it's really important that they're local to the community. That I think that that's something, Meg, you're shaking your head, yes. Is that something that you think is important for you sitting in your chair, that's not something you necessarily hire a virtual for, or somebody that doesn't know your area?
Yeah, 100%. I think the way that marketing should be is all about the relationships that you build, and you're creating these face-to-face relationships with small business owners and clients and people in your community, and that's where you gain that trust with them and that relationship there. So I think being in the community, I can't imagine doing this and not living in the place that you market, because it goes back to that authenticity thing. I mean, if you're not aware of things that are going on and things like that, I think it'd be really, really difficult, although doable. But yeah, I really see a big benefit in living where you're marketing.
Well, who doesn't get those, those, like, I think, I don't know what different Century 21, Sotheby's, I don't know who, where you get those magazines that has the person's picture on it, but none of the content is about the place where they live. Do y'all get those?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, and you get it and you just think like, oh, you just shouldn't have said anything at all, because this is so like phone it in, I mean, it just, so I think it's much better to do something that's not bright and shiny, but is authentic, than something that's bright and shiny. And you're thinking, I mean, did somebody in Alaska write this? This doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just on a very basic level, it's using stock images versus an iPhone photo. You'd much rather use that iPhone photo that you took really quick while you were at this event rather than something that doesn't look like you took it. I mean, I just think it's a huge, huge benefit to be local.
Yeah, totally. So with that in mind, like adding value, authenticity, I'm curious, Meg, we'll come to you first. What's the marketing piece or thing that you've done with MCPRE that you're most proud of?
The thing, we actually started this last year, probably exactly 1 year ago. It's called Coffee with MC. And we do it every Friday. Mary Cheatham and I sit on Zoom and we go live on Facebook with different community members. And it's literally 10 minutes where we sit and sip our coffee and talk to these people. And it's turned into something that makes my whole week. I mean, just watching it back watching it on Fridays and just being a part of it, it's been really cool to kind of add a personal touch to a real estate business, if that makes sense. I think we were talking about writing your narrative and kind of filling those holes on who's going to fill them if you don't. So keeping the personal side of things is really easy through video. I think having an audience where they can see how we interact and talk and stuff like that has been really, really fun for me. And we get to talk to cool people in our community.
Yeah, and I've watched a few of those, and I think, one of the things I wrote down that, Mary Cheatham talked about is like, if you're really into sports, and the one I watched, I think, Meg, it was your dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in college athletics forever.
Yeah.
And so I think for those of you listening, if you're doing something like that, it could be as wide as local business owners in your area, or it could be as narrow as I'm just going to talk to the people who are involved in athletics. Like I live in a college town, right? The list is endless of people that you could talk to. And I think that that's crafting your message, that that's what you're really into, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a perfect example of what you all were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah, that's cool. And we'll link that as well so that y'all can see what she's talking about. Mary Cheatham, what about you? Same question. What's the thing that you guys have put together that you're most proud of?
I think mine is our MCKRE Gives that Meg was talking about earlier. And y'all, I really overcomplicate things in my mind. Like I think it's going to be really hard to figure things out, and that's one of the reasons that Meg and I think work so well together is because I love to have a big idea and then I'll verbalize it. And then the next day she's like, here you go. Here are the pieces of the thing that you were talking about. And this is a perfect example of that, where I kept thinking that I wanted to figure out some sort of a charitable, part of what we do. And so, and I said, what if we just gave $100 per closing and put it in this MCKRE Gives fund, and then we give that money away every month? Because it's really a great way to tell your story of your numbers without it being quite so, hey, look at me, right? Yeah. And, because you talk about the families that you helped. And so we're really careful with the language that we use. And what we say is, last month, Mary Cheatham King Real Estate had, that was so thrilled to be able to help 28 buyers and sellers, purchase or sell their homes. These families were so appreciative of them. And on their behalf, we've donated $100 per family or $2,800 into MCKRE Gives. And this month we're giving it to whoever it may be. And so, we'll give it to the Boys and Girls Club for their operating fund, or we did a build for Habitat for Humanity, or, we just ordered supplies for a local clinic that needed, medicines and supplies there. So whatever it is, but that ended up actually being, I talked about it, and then Meg said, okay, so we just open the bank account and I've made this logo, and then we just start putting $100 a month in there. Is that right? And I was like, yeah, $100 per closing per month. That's exactly right. And then she kind of figures out how we're going to give it back and what that's going to look like. And it took off. So that's been a really, really cool part of what we do. And I think our team loves it. Every month we say, here's who we gave to, and the people will write us emails, or they'll call us, or they'll, we share that with the team, and they feel like that they're making a difference for these families and for these local nonprofits also.
And I think what's kind of a connection between the two things we just said, MC and Jordan and everyone, is that it's not a high production value. We're literally hopping on Zoom for coffee with MC. We literally threw a logo together and opened up a bank account. It's not, again, I think a lot of times I'm stifled by the fear of how much I have to do in order to get something off the ground, but we just kind of did it. And it's not we're not using professional cameras for our coffee talks. We're literally using our webcams. And same with MCKRE Gives. We just kind of put a plan together and get it off the ground. I think that's the most important thing, is to just do it.
That's right. And I think we've learned as we go, which I think is such a good, you just got it. That's how you learn, is by doing it. So we were doing coffee with MC, and now we've marked through the coffee on the logo, and it says espresso, because our coffee with MCs were getting really long. And so now we're very specific with our guests, and we say, there needs to be a lot of back and forth, and this whole thing should be 10 minutes. Of course, sometimes they get on a diatribe and it doesn't work out that way, but it's gotten a lot shorter, which is way more engaging, and people really like that. So, it's like a live and learn, like we kind of got it wrong the first time, and now we've got it right.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the one that I heard, wasn't it MCKRE Gives, Mary Cheatham, where you all contacted the electricity company there in town? Tell the story of that one real quick. I think that one, especially now, is even, so important.
Yeah. And again, this just comes from, I was listening, I don't know if y'all ever listened to Ryan Holiday has a podcast. And I really like, he's an author that I really like. He's a Stoic. And so he just writes kind of these great little snippets and has this great podcast. And he was on one morning. He said he had called the power company outside of Austin, and he had given them his credit card number and said, I'd like to donate, I don't know, $2,000 or whatever it was, towards people who are about to have their power cut off. And so, of course, I text Meg a lot at 4:30 in the morning. And I texted her and said, Meg, I think we should do this thing. I just sent her the Instagram clip. I think we should do this thing that Ryan Holiday is doing. And so sure enough, Meg handled it. We called the power company and got it set up so that people could call in if their power was about to be shut off. And we had donated X amount of money. That was for the month. We put all the MCKRE Gives money towards that, so people could call in and speak to the power company, and they would actually pay their bill off. And our clients were the ones who made that happen. So what a great story to be able to tell.
That was a cool one.
Yeah, that was really good. I love that. So guys, I wanted to shift gears here and talk a little bit about how you two work together. And yet before I did that, I want to briefly recap what we've covered so far. So what I'm hearing you say, right? First, finding your message is all about finding what's unique to you in the story that you want to tell, right? Be authentic, because what comes easy and gives you energy is how you're consistent, right? And then create the system for your content, which for you all is the buckets. So trying to recreate every email, every magazine, everything is just exhausting. You've got to create the system that drives the content, correct?
Correct.
And
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think all of us are going to have some buckets in common. You don't want people to forget that you sell real estate, right? So
right.
your listings are going to be a bucket. Real estate update is going to be one of the buckets, right? But then what you kind of how you dress that up and make it unique is should all be about you and what's gonna be something that you're going to want to engage in consistently.
Yeah, and I think what you guys do really well, I remember talking to Jen Davis about this one time, and I said, what their marketing department does really well is you feel jealous for not living there. Like you look at their listings, you look at their area, the things that are happening in Moorhead or Carteret County, and you're like, gosh, I'm missing out. I should live there. Or maybe that's just what people from Kansas feel like. I don't know.
Well, I was going to say also, it's not fair. Yes, you live in 0 degrees, and we kind of do let the area do the heavy lifting. I mean, we live in a pretty incredible area, but I'm sure each one of you, there are things that are incredible about where you live too. So I think it's just highlighting those things. That's right.
Oh, I love that. Just find the incredible, right? Find the incredible in your area.
Yeah. Well, and then I think other people who live there want to get behind you because they feel proud. They're like, hey, this is where I live. So
right.
Yeah.
That's so cool. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about how you two work together, right? And, one of my favorite questions to ask people sometimes is like, hey, Mary Cheatham, tell me what your strengths are. Or Meg, tell me what your strengths are. And I find that oftentimes people struggle identifying their own strengths. So Mary Cheatham, I want you to tell us, for those people who want to find a Meg, right? What are Meg's strengths? What is it that she's really good at?
God, I think that Meg is a really great balance of creative, right? But she's also an implementer. So she also chunks things down and gets it done. She's very organized. Meg sees the big picture, but she can also see the little pieces, which I think is kind of rare. And I think that when you think about hiring a marketing director, you might think that you want somebody who's very creative. And I think that you do, but you also need someone who can stay on task and someone who can take something big and chunk it down. So, absolutely one of the things that's incredible about Meg too is her skill set. So there's mindset and there's skill set, right? And so Meg's mindset is, yeah, let's do it. Let's absolutely do that, which is so, I mean, we couldn't work together if she didn't have that. She's, yep, give it to me. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it, which is incredible. But then her skill set, I think, is one of the other things that's amazing, which is that she's able to throw a website together or, kind of snap things into place to make them look beautiful. So, we're not waiting for someone, in website town to like update stuff before we can send it back out. We can actually handle a lot of these things on site and quickly. So I think that's a really big thing too.
Gosh, I'm sweating right now. This is so nice.
I think that's also true. And I think it's also, just, you want somebody who wants to get in there with you and say, yes, but let's do it this way. Or have you thought about this? Or, that kind of thing. I mean, I don't think any of us who are in the role that we're in always want to be right. I mean, how do you ever learn anything and how do you ever get better? Right. So it's really great to have somebody who says, let's tweak it this way. So anyway, I could keep going. Do you want me to keep going?
Oh,
well, we'll switch to Meg, but we don't want her to get too uncomfortable here. But the thing I would agree with you on that. Like, I've worked with you all for a long time, and the thing about Meg is that she is equal parts artist as she is integrator, right? Mm-hmm. Like Meg can take things and make them beautiful, but at the same time, she can work on a timeline and hit deadlines without losing the quality of the work. So when you're looking at hiring somebody, like, it's funny, in my schedule, everybody knows, like, if you don't have a Meg, you need to find a Meg. It's literally the title of the job, right? Which Meg is totally humble and hating this right now. So let's switch seats here, Meg. So what are Mary Cheatham's strengths that make it so effective for you two to work together?
So there are two things about Mary Cheatham that immediately come to mind. The first one is Mary Cheatham turns into marketing Barbie, and she enters into a marketing Barbie dream world. And this happens usually again from 4:30 a.m. until maybe 8. And I'm just kidding. It happens all the time. But Mary Cheatham, like, again, her ideas and her big picture thinking that's what makes my job so fun. So again, my job is to take her awesome ideas and put them down onto paper. And sometimes it's yes, 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 let's do it. Or sometimes it's let's actually do it this way instead. Because yeah, there might be different stipulations that might not be possible, but we always find kind of a good medium, or good, what's the word I'm trying to look for?
Balance.
Compromise. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. Yes.
And then the other thing about Mary Cheatham that I've learned a lot from, that I think is really incredible, is that, as you were saying before, I'm someone who can take something and get it done the next day, or works very quickly, but sometimes that's to a fault. So Mary Cheatham does a really, really good job of being really careful with her messaging and thinking about it for a little bit. And so she might not agree with me on that one, because sometimes she's like, oh, I hold on to things for a little bit too long. But I think that's something that I've learned a lot from you, is to not rush through the important messaging of things, because that's what matters most, especially in marketing.
I think that's interesting. And I think that that's true. I think as you're building your message, I think I'm a big believer that word choice matters and semantics matter a lot. And I think people, especially if they don't love marketing, they want to take their hands off and just let it go. And I mean, and I'm at the stage where I can do that. If Meg's going to do it, Meg knows my voice and she can nail it. And it takes time to get there. So I think that, especially as you're growing, I think it's easy to kind of let it go and not put a whole lot of thought into the way that you choose to express yourself. And I think it matters.
Yeah, totally agree.
Totally. All right, ladies. Well, we've got 2 minutes left. Anything that I haven't asked you that you feel like they should know before we wrap this up?
Gosh, Meg. I think the biggest thing I would say, and I don't know what sort of cross section of real estate brokers that we have on here, but the biggest thing I would say is just start. I mean, just take a little bit of time to be strategic about what your message is going to be, and then start working towards putting out, even if it's personal posts, even if it's just whatever it is, start kind of crafting that so that you've got a formula around it, but so that it's also authentically you. Those two things seem at odds, but they're really not. So I think to take both of those pieces and put them together and just start is the biggest thing I would say.
Yeah. And Jordan, you say this to me all the time, and Mary Cheatham said to you, done is better than perfect. And I did not know that 3 years ago when I started working here. And actually, we just, as a team, took an Enneagram test. And when I came in, I was a very high 1 perfectionist. And now I'm a 7, an enthusiast. And I think that, of course, at different stages of your life, that can be affected with that test. But I think working with people like Mary Cheatham, I just think that it really changed kind of my outlook and everything like that. So again, just starting, done is better than perfect.
That's right.
That's good.
Well, ladies, it's obviously working because, last year, this organization served 318 families, and the start we've had this year is even stronger, and it is just amazing being in business with both of you. So thank you for taking the time to talk with us all. I know that we're better for it. And there's been some talk about us even creating a class about how they craft their messages and their different marketing. And if you in the audience, this isn't something that's probably going to happen in the next 2 to 4 weeks, but definitely in 2021, if you in the audience have any interest in that class, send me an email, jordanfreed@kw.com, and just put in the subject line, I'm interested, jordanfreed@kw.com, I'm interested. And when we get this put together, we'll make sure that you're the first to know. So again, thank you, ladies, for your time. And everybody in the audience, everything they talked about today, Espresso with MC, their weekly email, the magazine, we will link that with the video when this recap comes out in the next 24 to 48 hours. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi there, and thank you for watching What I Crush. And if you're enjoying what we're putting down, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe. Don't forget the bell button, and check us out at whaticrush.com. We'll see you on our next episode.